Oh, good evening. My name is Scott. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I'm in recovery from sex addiction and compulsive overeating. Hey, glad to be here. Sorry, I clipped my beard to my shirt. I apologize. That was a little hair pulling. Hey, I am excited to be here. Glad you guys are here. We don't talk about this a whole lot, but in the 12 steps and in the step studies, Saddleback and John Baker, who wrote out the step workbooks, has 8 biblical principles that go along with it. And there's principle 8, which is what we're on right now, states this, says, yield myself to God to be used to bring this good news to others, both by my example and my words. And I know that it's the new year and you're going, dude, why aren't we on step 1? We should be on step 1. One of the best things that we can do is we begin our recovery journey, if that's where you're at today. If you've been a part of the program, and I see a lot of people that are very familiar faces, is the best thing you can do is start to serve. Start to give back. Be an example by your words and your actions. And we do that through the process we're going through. But Matthew chapter 5, verse 10 is the verse that goes with it. It says, happy are those who are persecuted because they do what God requires. And isn't that sound familiar to what Pastor Lonnie just taught on Sunday and Saturday night? That sometimes when we're making that choice to do the right things, to follow after Christ, we're one of those people that are standing alone. And sometimes we get persecuted because we're doing the right things. Going to that family event, we just went through the holidays. Today's still a holiday. And you're the person saying, I'm okay, I don't need to drink. Whew. Sometimes you get somebody making a comment, you get somebody making you feel bad, trying to help you feel guilty, all that kind of stuff. Step 12 states this. It says, having had a spiritual experience, as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs. That we would be able to practice these things in everything we do. We've done these 12 steps, we've walked this road, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to practice these things in everything we do. And tonight, what I want to talk to you about is yes. I want to talk to you about what does that yes mean? What does it mean to say yes to following Christ? What does it mean to say yes to doing this process? But it reminds me of the wonderful process that we have, and I see this a lot. Because I see these in these big trash bags that people are bringing down the road to go get money. And they're on their bikes or they're carrying them or they're going through my trash can and they're getting them out. In our neighborhoods, we set up certain trash cans in our backyard and we put them in there. But it's the process of taking something old and used and gross, ready to be discarded. And what they do is they go through a refining process. They go through a process where they start to melt, they crush it all down, then they melt it, and then they reform it, and then they put it in. I don't know the exact process, so just bear with me on this. But they go through that process of making it into something new. How many times have you gone to Starbucks? I go to Starbucks a lot. I meet a lot of people at Starbucks, and they have that little thing that's wrapped around the hot cup that says, hey, been used by 80% recycled paper. Right? Makes us feel good. That's part of this process is the fact that we came into these rooms like this. We came into these rooms used and abused and ready to be tossed and discarded. And the process of recovery, what happens is God starts to crush us down, make us to a point where we can then be molded and used by Him and to be refined. One of my favorite books, I hated reading growing up. Dyslexia, all that fun stuff, hated reading. I memorized books just so the fact that I could understand a little bit, and then I would just read the same book over and over again, and like when someone would ask me a question, I'd have the answer. But there was a part of my life where I actually started to pick up books. And Max Lucado was one of the first authors I was able to start to read because he wrote on a level that I could finally understand, and they were simple words, so it was easier for me to read. And one of his books is called On the Anvil. And there's part of this process where he talks about being on the anvil and the fact that there's different parts of this blacksmith shop. There's the tools that are laying in the corner that are collecting dust and cobwebs and just waiting. There are those that are actually in the fire. They're getting heated up. They're getting ready to have God start to be used. That's trials and tribulation. We didn't come into these rooms on a winning streak. But we came in after that fire was applied to our life. And then all of a sudden, the blacksmith takes us out of that fire, puts us on the anvil, and then starts hammering the crud out of us. And it doesn't feel good. And it hurts, and it causes pain. And we get to look around, and we get to see through that fourth step all the hurt and pain that's happened to us, and all the hurt and pain that maybe we've caused to others. And that's part of that process of ironing us out, getting us ready, getting us to a point where we can be used by God. That is the point of these 12 steps, is now that you're at a place, how do you start to say yes to God and start to be used by God? The why in yes says this. It says, yield myself to God. Scott, didn't we already talk about that? Yeah, that's step 2 and step 3. Didn't we already address that? Yeah. That's maintaining our conscious contact with God. Well, why is this still part of the process? Because that is a daily process for us. To get up and to set our will aside for God's will is such a difficult thing. Sometimes it's a moment-by-moment issue. But it's saying, I'm going to let God be the one in charge. I'm going to present everything that I have to God. I'm going to present my time to Him. I'm going to present my talents to Him, my gifts and abilities, and I'm going to present to Him my treasures. A lot of people that I've talked to that have a hard time with the church, one of the reasons they use is because the church always talks about money. Money, money, money. All they're trying to do is get money. Money, 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 money. Money, money. I got it. That's part of the thing. But part of our heart and us giving back is our finances. It's funny that we had all the money in the world to go do drugs. We had all the money in the world to go to the bar and drink all night long. We had all the money in the world to go to the strip club, to go to the massage parlor, to go get your drugs and do that line. But a step study workbook? Are you kidding me? I don't have $20. Are you serious? You just bought 2 dime bags. Are you kidding me? Here. What about our time? How much time have you wasted to get your fix? Chasing that dragon, so to speak. And how much time have you spent working your recovery? How much time have you spent chasing the healing that should happen in your life? That talent, man, the number of people that have come up and talked to me that are musicians out here that have said, man, I play a guitar, I do this, I can do that. And their talent is wasted when they can take that talent and get up on stage and they can lead us in celebration. I mean, we've had a guy come through the ministry that used to play for Metallica. I'm just saying, he might be a good drummer. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking he might be pretty good. But what are the talents that we have are we giving? And it's not all this. What are the talents that you have? What are the talents you have? And how are you presenting them to God? The old story or the old question that people love to share is this, is they say, hey, so if you had the cure to cancer, would would you tell people? Well, yes. Unless there's the few people that are narcissistic that say no. But there are those that are like, yes, of course I would. If the program and what God has used through this process has truly changed your life, why would we not continue to tell others about this process, about what Jesus has done in our lives, in my life and your life? The first thing I ever started to do was announcements. That's the first thing. I was on my way out the door. I'd gone through my step study, check. I had done my year, check. And all of a sudden, Scott Miller goes, "Can we get coffee?" Ugh. Because I knew there was the pastor going to sit down with me and there was going to be the ask. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, I was already going like every other week. I'll just go every other week because, I don't need every week. And then all of a sudden, I'm meeting with Scott Miller and he's like, "Hey, our guy that's doing announcements is moving to Hawaii. Will you step in and do announcements?" I was like, the first thing was, that means I got to be there every week. It wasn't, can I do it? And all of a sudden, I started to do it. I started showing up. I started doing announcements, all that kind of stuff. Those are some of the things that I was good at. I started to tell others about recovery. I started to stand up here and say, "Hi, my name is Scott. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I'm in recovery from sex addiction." And let me tell you, the first times those were uttered from the stage, there was the visual reaction that I got from the crowd that over half of them would go, "Ooh. Did he just say that? This is church. What is he talking about? We don't talk about those things. This is a holy place." And that's what would be the response I would get. We had a group of 3 guys that sat in a room, and how do you fill an hour of open share group time with 3 guys holding to the guidelines and not cross-talking? It was a lot of work. But here's the deal. All of a sudden, we now have 2 full groups of guys that are in these rooms struggling with sex addiction. Wow. Now, I'm not the sole reason for that, but here's the deal, are you yielding yourself to God to be used in those ways? 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15 says this: "Do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly handles the word of truth." Do your best to present yourself to God. Our goal, we made that the reality is that there's somebody out there greater than ourselves that could restore us to sanity. We've trusted our lives with Jesus Christ. And ever since that moment in time, our job is to become more and more like Jesus, that discipleship process. Are you presenting yourself in that way, or is the guilt and shame still hanging on your head? Or have you truly found that freedom in Christ? Pastor Seifert, who was a pastor here when I was growing up, used to say this when I was an intern. And he said this, he said, "Get usable and God will use you up." Get usable and God will use you up. If you get to a point as you're doing your program and all of a sudden you've got time, it hasn't been a year since I used. It hasn't been 5 years since I used. All of a sudden, God will start to use you not because of the magic time, but all of a sudden there's this recovery, there's this sobriety, there's this clarity that you've done some things that have helped you. And so now you get a chance and an opportunity to start to tell other people about that. And God will use you up. He will use you. So many of us think we just don't have a story that God's going to use. I guarantee you, if you've gone through the steps and you've done the work, you show up at that testimony workshop and you sit down and you start to write the story, I guarantee you God will use that story. God will use it to reach maybe one person, maybe 100. But God will use you. We have people that have gone through here and they go to different CRs sharing their testimony. And it shows you the truth that they will use you up, that God will use you up. Galatians chapter 6, verses 1 through 3, in the Message version says this: live creatively. Friends, if anyone falls into sin, forgivingly restore them or him, saving your critical comments for yourself, right? You might be needing forgiveness before the day is out. Stop or stoop down and reach out to those who are oppressed. Share their burdens and so complete Christ's law. If you think you are too good for that, you are badly deceived. I just love that. I just love that. Yield yourself to God and his process and let him start to use you to help others. E is to be that example. Be that example to other people. Does your walk match your talk? The question in the step study workbooks goes something like this: are you the same at work or as you are at home? Are you the same at home as you are around your friends? Are you say you are who you say you are? That's the question. Does your walk match your talk? James chapter 1, verse 22 says this: do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in a mirror and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they have heard, but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do. To not just be merely hearers of the word, hearers of the step study, hearer of what God can do if you go through this process, but actually doing it. And when we start to apply these steps to our life, we start to reap the benefit of this. And our lives change. Our lives change. And when we have that life change, you can't hide it. God will be able to use you in other people's lives. Does your lifestyle represent what you believe? Sit with that. Does your lifestyle represent what you believe? Or when you walk out of these rooms, does it totally change? Does it totally change when you're with a certain group of people? Or are you who you say you are? Good questions, good questions. The S in yes is this: it is to serve, to give back, to be able to start to be used by God to help others. John chapter 13, verses 14 and 15 says this, now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. At the time, you got to realize that this is in the upper room. This is where Jesus is right about to go and be crucified. He's upstairs. He's going to go eat this meal with his disciples. And he stoops down, wraps a towel around his waist, and starts to wash his disciples' feet. He washes their feet. And he says, I've given you an example. Do as I say, or do as I have shown you to do. Now, here's the deal. There's double meaning there. Not only is it to serve others, but part of the greatest way we can serve others is to forgive them. He was also talking about forgiveness because in that passage, he also talks to Peter. And Peter says, well, don't just wash my feet, wash all of me. And Jesus is like, no, Peter, I don't think you get it, bud. I've already taken care of that, bud. Here's the thing. To forgive others is huge. If you get to step 12 and you still haven't forgiven people, this is a big thing. that the greatest thing we can do to serve others is to continue to forgive them. And some of us in this room struggle with forgiving ourselves, and we've got to forgive ourselves also. And I know that's part of another step, but I wanted to touch on that real briefly. But the question is, where are you going to serve? When you go to group, it's going to be that question of how do you give back? Where do you serve? If you've been through the step work, you've gone through the 12 steps, you got some good sobriety, maybe it's through being a sponsor. So many times we go, oh, man, I just don't think I'm ready to be a sponsor. But do you have a year clean and sober? Have you gone through the step work? Are you, oh, yeah. Well, it's a great place to serve. I'll be honest, at Celebrate Recovery, it's probably one of our weaker spots of our ministry, is having people that would say, hey, I'm willing to step up and to serve. People are always going, hey, Scott, can you find me a sponsor? No, that's your job. That's a whole different lesson also that if you want to, you can go back on our podcast and listen to that one as well. But you got to find a sponsor. Maybe God's asking you to do that. Maybe the way that you can give back is writing your testimony and sharing your story from up here. Maybe it's being an open share facilitator. Maybe it's helping to go in there with that binder, that big heavy binder that is daunting, and everyone's like, what is that? It's like this sign of authority. It's crazy. Basically, it has word for word what you're supposed to do. It's crazy. All you got to do is read. You just flip it open. You got the stuff. They go through a training on it, being able to lead that time. Facilitating an open share group, facilitating a step study. Well, I've already been through 2 step studies, Scott, but there's this one other area I really want to work on, and so I don't think I'm going to lead a step study. I'll attend it. What? Well, what? We're looking for step studies to get started. Let's step up and let's help give back in that way, because don't you want somebody who's struggling, looking for a step study, to have a place they can go and find the same healing that you received? Maybe it's just being a greeter, not just being a greeter. Maybe it's being a greeter. Being that smiling face as people come in. There's nothing worse than walking into a group of people and nobody says anything to you. Do they even know I'm here? But when you walk in here, hopefully you're greeted by some people that are friendly and kind and nice, and they write you a really cool name tag with a smiley face on it. And you get to know people, and you shake hands, and they give you a bulletin. Maybe you could be part of that team. It's difficult, I know, to smile and shake hands, but we can do it together. I know we can. So that's an opportunity to give back. Maybe being a part of our prayer team. Every week we collect the prayer requests that you guys have here, and we send it out to our prayer request team. And there's people that literally are signed up, hey, I want to be a part of that. And they pray for those prayer requests every single week. Maybe it's being a part of the Sound of Media. Do you realize that we videotape just these teachings and we send them out on the World Wide Web? I know, crazy. And people listen to these. We have people in Hawaii. We have people in Arizona. We have people in Delaware. We have people in South Dakota. We have people all over the place that not only listen to these, but sometimes they show these testimonies after they've signed a release. We don't just show people's testimonies, show their testimonies. And we need people that are up there manning the cameras, doing the switcher in the back, helping us do the screens so you guys can see everything that's going on. It's not difficult. It's a space bar. Sorry, guys, I didn't mean to diminish what you guys do. But it's hitting a space bar. And they do a great job. And they come in early and they help to get everything dialed in. Maybe it's you're a singer, you're a guitar player, you're a drummer, you're a bass guy. Maybe you're an accordion player. Everybody needs a Weird Al Yankovic up here doing the accordion. I don't know, but we got something that you guys can give back in that way. Maybe you're a great cook. Maybe you're not a great cook, but you know what? You can get a spoon and you can scoop some stuff up and you can put it on a plate and say, hey, glad you're here tonight. Maybe you can grab a soda and hand it to somebody. Maybe you can be a part of the food team. Maybe you are a great cook. And you go, hey, man, I think I might be able to come in early and help prep some food. Up there is a thing called signs. We have different things that go out before, and I come over, and Hannah comes over, our assistant, and we set things up so it looks nice. We turn screens on so it looks nice. Maybe you could be part of that team. Maybe you're somebody that's been through the recovery process and you love teenagers because you remember when you were a teenager, that was when you began to go down your path. And so you could help start serving in the landing with our junior high and high school students who may need an open share group that's safe and somebody that's been through open share that can help them. Maybe you love little kids because you remember what it was like when you were a little kid, knowing you need somebody to love them and care for them and teach them recovery principles. And so you could volunteer for our Rock Solid Kids ministry, who's in that room right back there, taking care of and loving all of our kids. Maybe, and this is the big thing, I know there's in the secular world, the AA, NA meetings, there's literally a position of service where they do coffee. And it's so serious, they vote people in. It's not just this, hey, who shows up and doing coffee day. You literally get voted in to do coffee. The thing, the place, the location I avoid every single week because it drives me insane is that coffee station. Where somehow, I don't know how this happens, it could be to this, but they get the sugar packets and they get that going, and the sugar explodes, boom, and it covers the whole entire counter. It's crazy. But what if we actually had somebody that was volunteering that says, you know what I can do is I might be able to make sure that stays clean. You know what I might be able to do is, hey, when we run out of coffee, instead of just being set up at the front end of the night, that when we actually run out, I can go get more. That would be crazy. So we have coffee with our dessert. I hear an amen back there. But it's those types of things. What can you do to help give back? And if you're here for the first time, you're like, Scott, I'm here for the first time. I know. Start small. There was a guy that came for the first time, and I go, man, I really need help with something. I go, I need to count everybody that's in here. I get requested by my bosses how many people were there, blah, blah, blah. We just got to do our church attendance, all that kind of stuff, right? Will you count every single person that's in here every single week? And here's why I gave it to him, because I knew he needed to be here. And I knew if he had a responsibility, he'd actually start to show up. And he was here for 5 years straight, counting. And he's all, hey, dude, do I still need to count? Yes, I still got to turn those numbers in. But maybe you can be that counter. Tonight, my wife did it. I hope. You did it, right? Okay, good deal. So here's the deal. Maybe you can be that person. I don't know what it is, but I do know if you have something you're supposed to sign up to do and you know there's people counting on you, you're going to be there. That's part of being dependable. That's part of being trustworthy. That's part of working our program. If you don't know where to go to sign up, I'll give you one place to go. Go to the information booth. You need to talk to Sam. You need to talk to Shani. Those two people. And they will start the process to get you connected somewhere here on a Tuesday night. Will you guys stand with me and let's close with the serenity prayer and we'll head off to our open share groups. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. Amen.